Welcome once again to 720 and 720. This is John Schulman. We are very fortunate. We always love kind of going out of our comfort zone of basketball, and now we have a very famous football guest. And Jeff, you are famous, correct?
I don't know if I would use the term very famous. There's one very famous guy in Tuscaloosa, and it's not me.
Are you sure? Okay, but for the people listening to this, if you watch SEC football, which I love SEC football, on a Saturday night or a Saturday afternoon, and you watch Alabama, Alabama hits pretty hard. And you know, the offensive line didn't do a good enough job, and so Tua's getting hurt, and Hurts is getting hurt. And you see this bald-headed guy coming on that field to take care of those kids. Jeff Allen, you are that bald-headed guy, correct?
I am that bald-headed guy. My bald head has gotten me a lot of recognition, for sure. People always say that. You laugh, but people always say that about me. I saw your bald head. I get that all the time.
Well, you know, I try to explain people, and this would be the good way to start this whole podcast. All right, I said, listen, that's my buddy. You know, he's the trainer. All right, he's a trainer. All right, because we talked about it. He's a trainer at Alabama. He's the bald-headed guy, the trainer. And they go, you mean the big, strong guy who works them out all the time? Do you ever get those two guys mixed up? Are you mixed up with him at all?
Yeah, Coach Cochran and I get mixed up quite frequently, but I'm the athletic trainer. Obviously, there's a difference between an athletic trainer and a strength trainer. So, you know, clearly my job is to I tell people all the time, is to fix them when they break, and that's what I do, and that's what I spend my time working on.
Well, you're a miracle worker. First of all, you don't look like Cochran. All right, you're not as fit, just to be honest. All right, and I don't know. They say TV, you know, like TV adds 15 pounds. I'm not sure that's true in your case. But you don't. You're not. Can you not get in a weight room with him?
You know, I can't keep up with Scott Cochran. I don't try to keep up with Scott Cochran. So I work out, and I'm proud of my workouts, but his workouts are on a whole nother level, brother. So.
I'd say, all right. So your background, all right. So we hooked up at Chattanooga. You were the head athletic trainer at Chattanooga. You leave me. You get tired of Lebo and Schulman, and you head to Central Florida. How long were you at Central Florida for? 2 years?
And no, I was down there for 3 years. I guess in this profession, I don't go by years; I go by seasons. Yeah. So I think all the coaches, anybody in athletics, our life is in seasons. So we spent 3 seasons at Central Florida. And
then all of a sudden, you get the Alabama gig.
All of a sudden, to get the Alabama gig, I mean, just I've always had a thing that things work out like they're supposed to. I think the good Lord has a plan for our lives, and you know, it's crazy how this opportunity opened up for me, and it's been a wonderful professional blessing, but it's also been a great personal blessing as well. It's a great place to live and work.
Was Coach Saban there when you got there? Did he get there first? Who got there first?
So he got here in January of 2007, and I got a call in May of 2007, just about, I guess, 4 or 5 months after he had been here, and it was a contact that I had with him, someone that I knew that knew him, and this gentleman called me and he said, "Would you be interested in being the athletic trainer at Alabama?" And I said, "Oh, I'd be more than interested in it." I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Tell me what I need to do." So he said, "Well, this was back when coaches could still go on the road in May. Now they can't go recruit anymore in May." So Coach Saban was on the road in May. He said, "Coach Saban's recruiting this month." He said, "But recruiting will end in late May. He'll call you then." And I'm thinking, okay, well, we'll see if that happens. And sure enough, about 2 weeks later, he called me just out of the blue one day. My phone, I noticed an unknown number on my phone, picked it up, and it was Nick Saban. And 3 weeks later, I'm in Tuscaloosa.
Let me ask you this and be honest, all right? This, because I'm an honest guy, and we have a lot of fun on this podcast. Were you not flipping out when Nick Saban gave you a call? Or were you calm, cool, and collected? Let me hear that one.
You know, I think it caught me by surprise so much that I'm glad it did. I'm glad I really didn't know he was going to call me, but it caught me out of the blue. And at first I thought, well, somebody's playing a joke on me here. This isn't really Nick Saban. But as I listened to his voice, I'm like, no, this is Nick Saban. Calling me and talking to me about coming to Tuscaloosa to meet with him about being his athletic trainer. So it was surreal there, and even more so now. I mean, it's still my opinion of him as a coach has only grown over the years, and being around him and watching him work and watching how he does his job is a unique opportunity for me, to say the least.
Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit, but this podcast, like all of ours, hopefully, is to help young people and young trainers and coaches and how to deal with some different things. This is about Jeff Allen and not Nick Saban, which will be good. All right, the first question, I've got a couple questions for you. All right, dealing with players. I'm gonna take three things, and you're gonna help out young players and coaches how we can keep guys, because we don't like to see you as coaches. We don't want to get to your point. We don't want to get to the athletic trainer. We want to try to stay healthy on the front end, and I'm assuming that's what y'all are trying to do at Alabama, correct?
Every day. I tell people all the time. I said, the majority of my focus is on preventing injuries, so that I don't have to deal with someone when they're hurt. I would much rather prevent it, no question.
Well, how are you preventing? Let's start. Do you all do anything dealing with strength? How can you prevent like an ankle sprain? And you all dealt with, I was at the Tennessee game. The sun was coming off your head. The glare was brutal there in Knoxville because I have to go up there with a Tennessee fan, and he cries and complains he's listening to this podcast. I'm not going to go there. But I saw Hurts was struggling at that time, and then Tua, you've had, and I'm not talking about high ankle sprains. High ankle sprains I know are different than really regular ankle sprains. But how are you all trying to help yourself, or can you deal with anything with ankle sprains before you get them?
Well, first of all, I'll just back up just a little bit. Again, talking about from a prevention standpoint, I think one of the most underrated relationships in any sports team, any organization, any program is the relationship between the athletic trainer and the strength coach. If that relationship is not right, if those two entities don't get along and don't work together, you can't be successful. I firmly believe that. And I have made an effort at every place that I've ever been to have a great relationship with the strength coach, because if you don't, it's the athlete that suffers. So to speak to your point about prevention of any injury, ankle sprains, knees, shoulders, whatever, it's really got to be those two entities working together, the athletic trainer and the strength coach. And what I try to do is to provide information to Scott so that he can go and do his thing in the weight room and target specific weaknesses that our guys have. So what we do is we do a movement screen on our players 4 times a year. We'll evaluate them. We'll put them through a simple test. It takes about 10 minutes to do it. It's really easy, not to go into that, but it gives us specific weaknesses that they have, and we actually score them on it. And then I'll relay that information to Coach Cochran and his entire staff. We meet as a group and go over each player, and then he knows what he needs to work on. So let's say it is an ankle issue. A couple things come to mind. Number 1, Achilles flexibility, and then 2, proprioception or balance. So he can address those issues, in his workouts with the players. But I think preventing any injury goes back to that relationship between the strength coach and the athletic trainer.
All right. Now, you all have the elite of the elite. You can put them through this test, and you can find weaknesses. What if I'm at a high school in Albertville, Alabama, and I don't have that stuff? What can I do dealing with ankles or whatever? What can I do if I don't have that gear? I don't even have a strength coach. I'm at University High in Johnson City. I don't have a strength coach. I don't have anything, and I've got an athletic trainer that comes in the afternoon. What can I do as a coach or a player?
Well, people think that there must be some kind of fancy test. I mean, the test that we're doing requires zero equipment, first of all. But I know we're not talking about, that specific test. But if I was going to do one thing for ankle injuries, if I had to pick, well, let's say 2 things. Number 1, it would be Achilles flexibility. So I would do a ton of Achilles flexibility type exercises and trying to increase the flexibility of the Achilles tendon. I think that plays a role not only in ankle injuries, but lower leg injuries in general. And really, you could say performance issues as well. So I would focus on Achilles flexibility. And the other thing I would focus on is single leg balance, doing some single leg balance work. You would be surprised the number of kids that can't do a single leg squat. They literally just can't do it. They don't have the flexibility nor the balance to be able to do that. And if you can train someone and get them to be able to do a single leg squat and also work on their Achilles flexibility, you're not only going to, I think, make an effort to prevent ankle injuries. I think you're going to prevent other injuries as well. And that's something that costs $0 to do. Very simple, very easy. I think sometimes we overcomplicate things as coaches.
All right, I like that. All right, are you such a football head now? Can you even think basketball? Can you remember back in the day, so when you were doing basketball, so I can ask you some basketball questions? Can you handle that, Jeff Allen?
I worked with two good coaches that taught me a lot about basketball, John Schumann and Jeff Lebo. And, you got to remember now, I worked at Kentucky. I didn't learn a thing about basketball at Kentucky.
They don't know what they're doing up there. They struggle with basketball.
I saw a tremendous difference when I got to Chattanooga in the level of basketball.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. You ready?
Yes, sir. High
tops, low tops. Is there a difference? Do I have to wear high tops, or can I wear low tops when I play? Am I more susceptible to ankle injuries? Tell me that one.
If you look at the research, and we have looked at a lot of research on this issue with the shoe wear with our players, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. I think players feel more comfortable wearing, especially in a basketball sport and in basketball, they feel more comfortable in a high top, and understandably so. And if I were working basketball, I would want my guys to wear a high top shoe. I think it again, it's that feeling of stability that probably does help. The research, though, is kind of somewhere in the middle in terms of, does it actually prevent injuries? I don't think you can say that a high top shoe does that, but I think the feel of it gives you a better feeling, if you will. And I know that's crazy, but I would go with a high top.
Okay. All right. Taped, braced, or nothing?
Good one. Really good one. Certainly I would not do nothing. Okay. I would tape or brace, or in some cases potentially do both. I think there's a wide selection of braces out there. People ask me all the time, what's the best ankle brace? And I say the best ankle brace is one that you're going to wear. Because, I could get, one guy, one type of ankle brace, he doesn't like it, another guy does, and vice versa. You got to find an ankle brace that works for you and that is effective for you. And there's good research out there that both taping and bracing will certainly control that ankle motion and thereby prevent an ankle sprain. So I would say picking one of those is the best option. A lot of guys would rather be taped than braced, and some guys would rather be braced than taped. So you got to pick what works for you, but do something.
Side question there. All your football guys before every single game, are they braced? Are they taped? What are they?
We leave it up to them. We tell them they have to do something. So
one of the two.
One of the two. I would say, though, that 90% of our guys get taped. I mean, it's they would rather be taped than wear a brace.
All right, good stuff. Listen, now every football team in the country, high school, is going to try to be like Alabama. Once you you should have an academy. I'll put it on the Jeff Allen Training Academy. We'll just get a bunch of guys. Man, we'll kill it, man. With your looks and my personality, we'll just kill it. All right. Let's get away from ankles. Let's go. Is there anything? I'll do three things. Ankle, knees. Is there anything you can do? Maybe it probably gets back to your balance and your squat. Anything we can do to prevent anything with knee injuries?
Well, I think one muscle group that goes underappreciated with knee injuries, especially non-contact knee injuries, is the glute muscle. So the butt, if you will. People don't appreciate the role of the glute muscle as it relates to knee injuries and controlling knee motion. So we spend a lot of time working on our glutes, and it's not hard to do that. That good old-fashioned squat exercise is a really, really good exercise for your lower legs, and it's a really good exercise for those glute muscles. The key on that is technique, and what we're trying to focus on. We're not worried about throwing a lot of weight on the squat bar. We're worried about good technique and being flexible and being able to squat and do it the right way. And if you do that and slowly build them up, you're going to train them the right way with that exercise. And I think training that glute muscle, working that glute muscle, will go a long way in preventing knee injuries.
I mean, and that's easy. I mean, I can, I can do that. Anybody, any high school in America can do that.
Well, again, I think we overcomplicate it, man. We're thinking that, there's some magic machine or some magic deal. It's really not. It's just doing the basic exercises that we've all been taught to do, but doing them the right way and doing them consistently.
Last injury I want to deal with, and this is very personal to me, but backs. How lower back injuries, lower back fatigue and aches and pains down there. What can we do early to prevent all that mess?
Well, kind of like I talked about the ankle, I mentioned flexibility. I think with back issues, a lot of it is tied into flexibility, and in particular, two muscle groups that I look at with back injuries: hamstring flexibility and hip flexor flexibility. I think if you work on those two groups, and we spend a ton of time doing flexibility work with our guys. We do a lot of Pilates with our guys. We actually do a lot of yoga with our guys, and we found that both of those activities have decreased the incidence of low back pain in our players. Again, I think just working on and doing it consistently, hamstring flexibility and hip flexor flexibility. The issue with flexibility is we all know that, we all hear that, we all, oh yeah, I need to stretch, but we just don't spend enough time doing it. And guys think, well, I'm going to stretch for 10 minutes. That's nothing. That's not going to get it done. So working on range of motion, working on flexibility, like you would any other, area is critically important for sure, especially with low back issues.
Are y'all stretching before and after practice? I mean, how long y'all stretching as a team, and how long should you?
The stretching that we do before practice is not really intended to work on flexibility. It's not. I mean, they're out there for probably 7 to 10 minutes, just doing more of a dynamic warm up, and let's increase their heart rate. Let's get them moving a little bit. Let's quote unquote loosen them up. But it's not a flexibility workout. We do with flexibility, we kind of do it individually with our guys and apart from their normal workout. So again, with our movement screen, we'll know the guys that need individual flexibility work, and we will bring them in. We treat it like rehab. We'll bring them in and do some work with them apart from everything else, because it needs to be probably a 30-minute type deal where that's what they're focused on, and that's hard to find. So you have to carve that out of their day.
All right, bringing them in. All right, now let me just explain this to you. I am now an Alabama football fan. And I didn't grow up one, but I love how you all conduct your business. And my buddy, my best buddy who's a Tennessee fan, is like, oh, you jumped on the wagon. Absolutely, I jumped on the wagon. Y'all were flying, and I jumped on. But it's not because it's how you conduct your business. And I like, how everything is done for Alabama football. So let me ask you this. I'm coming in to do treatment. I remember the no AM, no PM rules at different places. I'm late for treatment. So go to that. I'm late for treatment. How you all conduct your business? I'm assuming not a lot of guys are late for treatment.
No, they're really not. And, I think it's the players understand here that they're going to be held accountable for what they do, and they have to take responsibility. If they're injured, if they're not 100%, it's their responsibility to get in and get taken care of and get treatment. Because, and one thing I've learned about Coach Saban, he's going to move on, and if you can't perform, he's going to find somebody that can. And that's not a negative. We're not saying that in a negative way, but basically the player is going to be, they're going to be irrelevant, if you will, if they don't do what they're supposed to do in every area. He's going to find someone that will do it the way that it's supposed to be done. It's real simple. It's not complicated. Again, they're going to be replaced, if you will.
So a kid shows up late for a training session, athletic training session. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, I've got to rehab my ankle, and I show up at 8:15, and I've got an 8:30 class, and you were supposed to be there at 7:30. Coach Saban's going to know about that, correct?
Coach Saban's going to know about that, and as I tell the players all the time, look, if you miss treatment, I'm assuming that you're full go and you're ready to practice. So get ready to go that particular day, because what you're telling me is that you're fine. If you don't show up for treatment, then you're telling me that I'm ready to go perform that day. So as long as you can go perform, that's great. But if you miss treatment and you can't perform, that's a problem. That's a problem. So. And that will be dealt with, again, individually, and they'll be quote unquote replaced, and we'll kind of move on. It's a very business-like situation. It's, we don't try to complicate it, to say the least.
Well, it's also preparing guys for, you show up late for work. Last time I checked, you show up late for work twice, and you probably, I would say the employer will move on.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think trying to, and it's hard. It's hard to teach them accountability. It's hard to teach them responsibility.
But that's also one of your jobs.
Obviously, we'll try our best to hunt them down, find them, and get them in, and help them in every way that we can. But we're, obviously trying.
I'm losing them a little bit. Jeff, can you hear me?
I got you. Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you this, and like I said, we're not going to focus on Saban here, but give me two things that you've been at different places. What makes Alabama football? Because it even though it was Alabama football a while ago, y'all didn't have the success that you're having now. What makes Nick Saban and Alabama football different than really the rest of the teams in the country?
I think it's Coach Saban's ability to relate to the players and his ability to recruit, and he is unbelievable at that. And people always look at him, and the perception of Nick Saban versus the reality are two different things. And the perception is that he's a hard-nosed, difficult coach, but the reality is he is a player's coach that genuinely cares about his players, and they recognize that, and they will go play for him all the time. I'll never forget what he told me on my interview when I first met with him. The very first thing out of his mouth was he said, "I want my players cared for the right way," and it really struck me, and I was like, wow, it really set me back a little bit, and I knew, okay, he's genuine with this, and he is very, very genuine with how he wants his players cared for and taken care of, and they recognize that. If you look at our facility and what he does and the changes that he's got the university to make in an effort to take care of the players and do it the right way, the players know that, whether it's how we feed them, their locker room, just everything is built around taking care of the players. And they know that, and they know it starts at the top.
Well, I think the elite coaches have the ability to rip them and hold them accountable in an incredible way, but still they know that guy loves them and cares for them, so they will do it. I don't think everybody can do that. And I think it has to be a genuine way. You can't trick guys. So, I mean, there's no way you can trick them all. So they have to know that he cares for them because he is on them in a relentless manner, but they love him to death. That's what it looks like from the outside.
No, you're 100% right, and he does a marvelous job at forming relationships with the players. That I think is an underrated skill in coaches. Having personal relationships with the guys, getting to know them, and letting them know that you do care about them. And he does a really, really good job of that, without a doubt.
Real quick, first time you ever got ripped by him, were you in a panic?
Well, I've been fortunate. I tell people all the time. Before Coach Saban, I worked for George O'Leary, so they are similar in their drive and in their how they do their business, and they hold everybody in the organization accountable. to do their job. So working for Coach O'Leary prepared me, to work for Coach Saban, and I've genuinely enjoyed working for both of them. But and what I tell people all the time is, working for Nick Saban has made me a better athletic trainer. Now, he doesn't know anything about athletic training. I mean, he'd tell you that. That's not my area. But working for him has made me better at what I do, because he forces and demands that everybody in the organization is accountable for their particular area, and that everybody's striving to be better. You get that from him, because that's what he's doing for himself every day.
Well, what y'all have done, I mean, I really firmly, truly believe this, and we talked earlier about the doctors before we kind of got on this. Y'all have taken everything to a whole nother level. I mean, a high ankle sprain, you were out for 6 weeks on a high ankle sprain. At Alabama football, you're out for 2 weeks. You all are taking things, I'm sure Coach Saban is, hey, when's Tua ready? Well, it's a high ankle sprain, Coach. He'll be 6 weeks. No, unacceptable, Jeff. It's 2 weeks. I can deal with 2 weeks. Well, Coach, we can't. Well, Jeff, fix it, because I need him back in 2 weeks. So I've been involved in those conversations. High ankle sprains, 2-week rehab. Are you kidding me? I mean, he looked better. He looked better in the playoffs he did in the regular season. And I know Tua is a God's gift of an athlete, but I think you probably had something to do with that.
Well, we have a tremendous asset in the physicians that work with us out of the Andrews Sports Medicine Clinic in Birmingham, just about 30 minutes up the road from Tuscaloosa. Those guys are unbelievable. Dr. Lyle Kane and Dr. Norman Waldrop in particular are incredible at what they do, and they're unbelievable men, and they're unbelievable surgeons, and they just do a great job taking care of our players, and they're on the cutting edge. I think that's what I'm hitting on, because doctors are doctors, and you go to old school doctors, they're still doing the same thing they did 25 years ago. Y'all are on the cutting edge of doing some different things down there. No one's ever heard of a high ankle sprain and going in there and doing what you lost me on TV when they were explaining it, but I know that he was ready to roll, and he shouldn't be ready to roll, but he was. Well, no, absolutely. I mean, you're right. You've been around that injury enough to know that an injury of that magnitude is probably 6 weeks at best.
Yeah,
probably more like 8 weeks. And the procedure that they've started doing, we started doing it in 2015. It was the first time that we used it, and I was by no means expecting it to be a 2-week or 3-week procedure. I thought it would still be about 4 weeks, but it's been a very, very effective, and not only for a player to be able to return quicker, but also for their long-term prognosis. We feel like long-term, 6 months, a year and a half down the road, they're going to be better because they had this procedure done. So it's a win-win on every side.
All right, last thing I'm going to ask you about is this: who thinks? Now we watch somebody get hurt. They bring the kid in a football game. They bring him to the tent. Who thought of that? Why did you think of it? And now you better be making a lot of money off of it.
Well, what's the old cliche? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? And what I learned in Alabama is that every time we had an injury, we would be on the sideline on our treatment table, and it would be just total chaos with people in the stands coming. There's a small walkway behind our bench, about 10 feet from our bench, and people would be crowding that walkway, yelling at the player, taking pictures, and not to mention the TV cameras. And I said, there's got to be a better way to do this. And it's a long story, but just to make it simple and sweet, the dean of the College of Engineering here at Alabama is a great guy, Chuck Carr, and Dr. Carr, I've gotten to know him over the years, and I called him and I said, look, can you help us with this? Can you design something like that would be on our sideline that would quickly go up and down, that we could use as needed? And he put a team of engineering students on it, guys that were about to graduate it, that needed a project. And the next thing you know, we have a sideline medical tent. And from there, 2 of the engineers that did the initial design and myself started a company to manufacture these things. So it's been great. It's been really, really good. In terms of your question about how much money I'm making, I'm still working. I still work every day. So on my other job, on my main job, but I have been an investor in that company, and it's been really fun to be a part of.
Well, I mean, so every NFL team has them. The majority of college teams have them. You really, with social media, it's really a necessity. I'm assuming now.
Well, I think every player deserves, when they're injured on a sideline during a game, a football game, soccer game, whatever, they deserve some privacy, because that can be a difficult situation, to say the least. In terms of the emotions that could go into, being hurt and possibly a game ending or season ending
or career ending.
Or career ending, yeah. Absolutely. And I tell people all the time that obviously the privacy component of the medical tent is tremendous, and it gives us a private environment for that athlete. But what I didn't really fully appreciate that it was going to do was it's made our medical evaluation on the sideline better, okay? Because now I'm not worried about the distractions around me. The doctor's not worried about any distractions. It's like a private exam room right there, right on the scene. And, the most critical time with an injury is the first 10 to 15 minutes afterwards for you to get a good, accurate, evaluation and diagnosis to make a good decision. And, when you block out a lot of those distractions, it's really beneficial. And really, from a concussion standpoint, it's been remarkable, because we can really have a private area that we can do a good concussion evaluation and make a good decision on what we're going to do.
You bring up, I'm ready to end this, Jeff, and then you bring up something else, concussions. Listen, if you can invent a tent to take care of kids on the sideline, I don't get the fact that you all can't invent something to diminish concussions. I think in football, the problem is Scott Cochran's the problem, because these guys are so big and strong and fast now. I mean, watching these guys play football, it's a joke. I mean, they are flying around, and I don't think when football was invented that anybody ever thought there'd be athletes out there on that daggum field how there are now. What can you do? Is there anything you can do? Anything that you can make? How can this? I know you can't prevent concussions through your office, but how can you do that through equipment, or what's the next thing on the horizon?
Yeah, I tell you what, if I come up with that deal,
you will stop working, right?
Yeah, I will stop working for sure. But
I'm sure there are people working on it right now, though.
Oh yeah, no, there's people constantly, and people always ask me what's the best helmet, this, that, or the other, and just about every helmet out there. I hesitate to say this, but every helmet out there is going to be, helpful, no doubt. And there are certainly helmets that are better than others, but it really goes beyond the helmet to me, John. It goes really to technique and yeah. how that player is taught to play the game, and that starts at the youth level, and teaching players to play the game in a way that will minimize head contact. And it can be done. But it's too late sometimes when they get to high school, or certainly too late when they get to college, to try to teach them to play that way. If they are leading with their head, if they're using their head all the time, it's a hard habit to break. So I think education of youth sports coaches is critical. And there's organizations like USA Football is a phenomenal one that does a really, really good job of teaching a heads-up way, if you will. That's what they call it,
yeah.
The heads-up method to play football. And it's very effective, and it does work. But that's where it's got to start at. It really has to start there. And then you mentioned Scott Cochran in terms of building them up. And making them strong and fast, no doubt. But he also plays a role in concussions, because we're trying to focus a lot on neck strength. There's a lot of studies that show that neck strength and upper back trap, shoulder strength especially, can be beneficial in controlling that head motion that is such a predominant cause of concussion type injuries.
Yeah, everybody's got to work together. I
Yes.
mean, you really got to work. The coach has got to work and teaching the right thing, and you've got to do your deal, and Cochran's got to do his deal, and that's why y'all are so successful at Alabama. You're a lot of fun to watch. I don't like when you come on the field because that means somebody got hurt. But every time you do, I was like, I know that guy. I know Jeff Allen. And like I said, there's difference between Jeff Allen as the athletic trainer and Cochran as the strength trainer. But you both are vital. And Jeff, thanks so much for your time, man. I mean, you're helping players, you're helping coaches. Actually, this podcast is probably going to help parents dealing with ankle injuries and what should I do with my kid and lower back strength. It's not real difficult to stretch.
Well, I appreciate the time, John. It's obviously great to connect with you, and many, many fond memories of our time together at Chattanooga, and love my time there. And hopefully this podcast will help some parents or some coaches. Sports is so important, I think, in the lives of kids and young people in terms of developing them and giving them the skill set they need to be successful. And the more people we can get involved playing sports, every sport, the better off I think we are as a society, for sure. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, you can learn so much through it. Jeff, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I guess we'll see you at the end of January again playing for another national championship.
Well, that's what we're working toward.
Hey, y'all got to get something done down to Alabama football. I mean, you got to win. Come on, man. I mean, I got some friends up here that are very stressed out, and so I'm assuming recruiting went okay for you. I think it probably went okay, and hang in there. You lost Hurts, but I mean, you got Tua back. You'll be okay. I'm a little concerned about your 14 running backs that are all Americans, but hang in there, okay, bud?
We're going to try to find a way, man. I appreciate it, John.
All right, man. Take care. Thanks again.